The city was winding down for the night, but inside the towering glass structure of Meridian National Bank, the lights on the top floors still glowed with quiet intensity. The hum of servers mixed with the distant sound of rain tapping against the windows, and Ethan Cole sat alone in his office, illuminated only by the pale glow of his computer screen. He was a senior analyst, precise, cautious, loyal to a fault, or at least he had been. But tonight, loyalty was beginning to feel like a trap. For months, Ethan had noticed anomalies buried in the data. Massive fund transfers that appeared and vanished like ghosts. Flagged accounts belonging to high-level clients that suddenly went dark. And transactions coded with strange classifications he'd never seen before. The more he dug, the clearer it became. Something monumental was happening deep inside the banking network, hidden behind the veil of official reports and press releases. It wasn't just internal restructuring. This was coordination on a global scale. He leaned closer to his screen, decrypting a file that had just come through a secure internal line. The subject line was short but chilling. Tier 1 redemptions complete. Stand by for Tier 2 clearance. The words felt heavier than they looked. He'd heard the phrase Tier 1 whispered in private meetings, the kind where doors were locked and phones were left outside the room. It referred to the top echelon of financial entities, central banks, sovereign accounts, and elite trusts. If their redemptions were complete, that meant billions, possibly trillions, had just shifted hands without the public knowing. Ethan exhaled slowly, his mind racing. He opened a secondary terminal, one he'd created off the company's secure grid months ago. Every action he took now was illegal, and he knew it, but the deeper he had gone, the harder it became to ignore the truth. The world's wealth wasn't just being redistributed, it was being rewritten. A sudden ping broke his concentration. A new message flashed on his encrypted network, sent through a secure channel only he used. It was unsigned, anonymous. Asterisk, asterisk, they know, move now. Asterisk, asterisk, he froze. His heartbeat quickened. For weeks, he'd been careful, routing his connections through multiple proxies, using devices not tied to his identity. But someone had found him. He turned off the overhead light, letting the room fall into near darkness. On the far side of the window, lightning cracked across the night sky, illuminating his reflection-tired eyes, a tense jaw, the faint outline of a man who had crossed too far to turn back. He packed his laptop into a slim case and slipped on his coat. The cleaning crew was making their rounds on the lower floors, their vacuums droning faintly in the background. He moved quietly, avoiding the main elevator and heading for the emergency stairwell. Each step echoed softly as he descended, the metallic clatter drowned by the rain outside. In the parking garage, his breath came out in clouds of steam. He glanced around, no security in sight, but he could feel it, the invisible gaze of cameras. He slid into his black sedan and pulled out, tires hissing on the wet pavement. As he drove toward the edge of the city, the skyline receded behind him, swallowed by the storm. Ethan's mind replayed the last few hours in fragments, the confidential files, the strange wording in the internal memos, the sudden activity across overseas accounts. It wasn't hard to connect the dots. For years, analysts like him had heard rumors of a coming reset, a restructuring of the world's financial order. Most dismissed it as conspiracy theory nonsense, but tonight he had seen the proof with his own eyes. The first tier, those closest to the centers of power, had already been paid. That could only mean one thing: the rest of the world was next. His phone buzzed again. It was an unknown number, but the code prefix told him it was internal. He ignored it, but the message notification popped up anyway. "You're not invisible, Ethan." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. His exit route led him out toward the highway, but he made a sudden turn, veering onto a back road that wound through industrial lots and warehouses. He parked behind an abandoned freight terminal and cut the engine. For a moment there was only silence, the kind of silence that hummed with electricity waiting to break. He opened his laptop again, fingers trembling slightly. The encrypted drive loaded, revealing a folder marked Truth. Inside were dozens of documents, transaction logs, screenshots of internal communications, all evidence of the Tier 1 redemptions. He had enough to expose everything: the coordinated gold, backed transfers, the government participation, the elite financial circles moving vast sums under coded directives. The lightning flared again, followed by a deep rumble of thunder. Ethan hesitated, staring at the cursor blinking on his screen. He had one shot to send this out one window before they traced him. He thought of Jenner Rhodes, the investigative journalist who had once interviewed him for an article on monetary transparency. She'd trusted him even when he couldn't tell her much. If anyone could broadcast this without it being buried, it was her. He opened an encrypted mail relay and typed in her contact address. Jenna, it's happening. Tier 1 redemptions complete. Files attached. They'll deny it, but this is real. Protect yourself. He hesitated, then added, they're watching everyone connected to this. Move carefully. He pressed send. The progress bar inched forward 10%, 20%, 60%. The laptop fan whirred louder. Then, as the upload hit 100%, the screen flickered. A red alert box appeared. Asterisk asterisk, a connection compromised. Trace in progress. Asterisk asterisk, Ethan slammed the lid shut and yanked the battery out. His breath came fast and sharp. He knew what that meant. They were already triangulating his position. He stuffed the laptop into his bag, grabbed the keys, and started the car again. In the rearview mirror, the reflection of two headlights appeared in the distance, approaching fast. He pulled onto the side road, tires spinning on wet asphalt. The car behind him followed. He didn't know who they were: internal security, federal agents, or private contractors, but it didn't matter. All he knew was that the truth was finally out there, and nothing would stop it from spreading. As he sped toward the outskirts of the city, the rain fell harder, masking his movements. His thoughts drifted to the world beyond the storm, the millions of people who would wake up tomorrow, unaware that the foundation of their financial system had just shifted overnight. He wondered if they would believe it when the news broke, or if it would be buried under official denials and technical jargon. Somewhere deep inside, fear mixed with something else: resolve. He had done it. He had leaked the truth. Whether it cost him his career, his freedom, or worse, didn't matter anymore. The world had a right to know. As dawn began to lighten the horizon, Ethan pulled over near an old diner, hidden behind a line of trees. He cut the engine and leaned back, exhaustion settling over him. The rain softened to a drizzle. His phone buzzed once more, a new message from an unknown source. Asterisk asterisk, a message received. We'll protect it. Stay hidden. Asterisk asterisk, he smiled faintly for the first time in days. Somewhere out there, Jenna was reading his files, and soon the world would too. The storm outside had started to fade, but the one he had unleashed was only beginning. Jenna Rhodes sat in the dim light of her apartment, the hum of her laptop the only sound breaking the midnight quiet. The city outside her window glowed faintly under a soft drizzle, skyscrapers shimmering like silent sentinels of secrecy. She was exhausted, another long day of broadcasting financial updates that felt repetitive and hollow. But just as she was about to shut down her system, her phone buzzed sharply against the table. The screen flashed with a name she hadn't seen in years: Ethan Cole. Her pulse spiked. Ethan wasn't the type to reach out without reason. He'd been her most reliable source once, an insider who had quietly helped her uncover small banking scandals, insider trades, hidden frauds, the kind of stories that shook the surface but never touched the core. But since he'd vanished from contact months ago, she had assumed he'd either been promoted into silence or scared into submission. Now seeing his name appear through an encrypted channel meant something big. She opened the message cautiously. There was a single attachment titled asterisk Tier 1 Finalization Report, Restricted Access. Asterisk below it, Ethan had written just a few words, asterisk this is real, be ready. Asterisk Jenna hesitated, the weight of those words pressing on her chest. She clicked the file, her eyes scanning rapidly as pages of numbers, codes, and signatures unfolded before her. At first, it looked like standard financial documentation, the kind she had seen countless times. but then she noticed the classification marks. Asterisk, confidential, sovereign level clearance required. Asterisk, her hands began to tremble slightly. Each section of the report detailed completed transactions between entities she recognized, top-tier global banks, international funds, and private trusts linked to government institutions. The scale was incomprehensible. Billions, possibly trillions, had been redeemed through what the report referred to as Tier 1 completion. The beneficiaries were not ordinary corporations or citizens, but elite financial groups, central banking families, and international trusts that had been dormant for decades. There were signatures from Treasury officials, coded references to gold-backed settlements, and transfer confirmations routed through foreign reserve accounts. The entire thing read like a script for a silent revolution, one that was happening inside the global banking system while the world slept. Jenna leaned back in her chair, her mind spinning. For years, she had covered rumors of a global currency reset, the so-called financial rebalancing that conspiracy forums obsessed over. Most journalists laughed it off, and she had too, until now. If this document was genuine, then the world's wealth was being reorganized in real time, starting from the top. The Tier 1 elites had already cashed in, which meant the rest of the tiers, corporations, institutions, and eventually individuals were next in line. Her instincts as a journalist kicked in. She copied the files to a secure drive and began verifying names. Each one checked out. She cross-referenced the transfer dates with recent fluctuations in gold markets, foreign exchange rates, and treasury bond shifts. They aligned perfectly. Nothing about this was random. It was orchestrated, calculated, and deliberate. Suddenly, her secure phone vibrated again. Another message from Ethan appeared. Asterisk, they know the leak happened. Stay off main networks. They're monitoring transfers. Asterisk, her blood ran cold. She stood abruptly, walking to the window. The rain was falling harder now, blurring the distant streetlights. She drew the curtain shut, locked her door, and returned to her laptop. Every instinct screamed that she was crossing into dangerous territory, but something stronger pushed her forward, the need to expose the truth. She opened a fresh recording file. The mic light glowed red. Her voice was steady, even though her heart raced beneath her ribs. This is Jenna Rhodes, she began softly. I've just received confirmation from a credible banking insider that Tier 1 redemptions within the U.S. banking network have been completed. Billions have quietly shifted to elite accounts tied to global financial institutions. This isn't speculation, I've seen the evidence. The world's financial structure is being rewritten right now, and no one's talking about it. Her voice grew stronger as she spoke. This process, referred to as the global currency reset, has been rumored for years, but this document proves it's real. The question now is, who benefits and what happens when Tier 2 begins? Because when it does, it won't just be banks and governments. It'll be corporations and eventually us, the public. She paused, exhaling slowly. I don't know how long this video will stay up once it's released. But you deserve to know what's coming. The economy, as we know it, is about to change. She stopped the recording and stared at the waveform on the screen. It wasn't polished, it wasn't rehearsed, but it was raw, real, and dangerous. She uploaded the video to her backup channel, one not tied to her name, and encrypted the metadata. Within minutes, it began to process. As she waited, she glanced at the clock, 2:14 a.m. Her eyes burned from fatigue, but adrenaline kept her awake. She switched on her second monitor to track the flow from the upload. The progress bar hit 100% and the video went live. For a moment, nothing happened. Then notifications began pinging rapidly, views climbing, comments flooding in. The words Tier 1 redemptions complete lit up search feeds. Then, out of nowhere, her internet connection dropped. Screen froze and a red alert flashed. Asterisk, a connection terminated by remote source. Asterisk, she stared at it. Why? Died. A few seconds later, her phone buzzed again. No caller ID. She hesitated but answered. Jenna, the voice was male, calm, but with a cold edge. You have no idea what you've just done. Who is this? She asked, trying to steady her voice. You've released classified material tied to ongoing financial operations. Take it down now. She clenched her jaw. If it's false, then it shouldn't matter, right? A pause, then the line went dead. Jenna stood still, heart hammering, trying to process what had just happened. She reopened her laptop and checked the upload status. The video was still online. But mirrored on dozens of channels now, viewers were re-uploading it, sharing it, spreading it across platforms faster than anyone could delete it. Her story had escaped her hands, her inbox flooded with messages from anonymous accounts, some thanking her, others warning her, "You just confirmed what we've been waiting for. They'll come after you next. Protect your source." She typed a quick encrypted message to Ethan, asterisk, "It's out. The world knows." Asterisk minutes later, a reply appeared, asterisk, "Then it's begun. Stay off grid. They'll silence whoever they can." Asterisk, she closed her laptop and stared into the darkness of her apartment. The faint hum of the city outside felt different now, heavier, tense, as though the whole world had shifted a few inches beneath its feet. Somewhere, inside boardrooms and private towers, powerful men were realizing the leak couldn't be contained. Jenna felt fear clawing at her throat. But beneath it, a flicker of defiance. She had done her job. For years, she had been told that truth was only valuable when it was convenient. Tonight, she had learned that truth, when inconvenient, becomes unstoppable. She turned off her lights, grabbed her coat, and slipped quietly out the back door into the wet streets. The rain soaked through her hair as she moved quickly through the alleyways, vanishing into the night. Behind her, her video continued to spread, millions of views, countless shares, and one headline echoing across the digital world. Asterisk asterisk, U.S. Bank insiders leak major update, Tier 1 redemptions complete. Asterisk asterisk, the story had gone viral, the reset had begun, and Jenna knew wherever she went next, nothing about the world would ever be the same again. The internet was alive with chaos. Within hours of Jenna's video going live, forums, news feeds, and encrypted chat rooms erupted like wildfire. The title alone, asterisk, U.S. Bank insiders leak major update, Tier 1 redemptions complete. Asterisk had sent shockwaves through every corner of the online world. Screens across continents lit up as millions watched, argued, and speculated. Some called it the dawn of a new financial era, others dismissed it as another digital hoax. But deep inside the world's most powerful institutions, panic had already set in. In a dim motel room on the outskirts of Baltimore, Ethan Cole watched the chaos unfold on his cracked laptop screen. The motel smelled faintly of dust and old carpet, but it was the only place far enough from the city where he could safely stay offline. His reflection flickered across the dark monitor, illuminated by the scrolling flood of comments and reposts. Every word, every clip, every mention of Tier 1 redemptions confirmed what he had feared. His leak had spread far beyond containment. He had crossed a line that no insider could ever come back from. He refreshed the page again. Jenna's video was being mirrored across hundreds of channels now, many using anonymous handles and proxy accounts. Some added subtitles, others mixed in data from the leaked documents. The evidence was out there, the coded transactions, the cleared redemptions, the verified signatures. People were dissecting every frame like it was a map to hidden treasure. The narrative had escaped his control, and now it belonged to the masses. Ethan ran a hand over his face. Exhausted, his body ached from sleepless nights and constant tension. He had expected silence after the leak, maybe a slow crawl of attention. But this was a storm. He hadn't realized how hungry the world was for confirmation that the rumors were real. The idea of a global reset had always lived in whispers, dismissed by economists as fantasy. Yet now, with one leaked document, fantasy had stepped into reality. His encrypted phone buzzed on the nightstand. He grabbed it and checked the message. Asterisk, it's everywhere. They can't stop it. Be ready to move. Asterisk, it was Jenna. He exhaled a shaky breath, relief and fear mixing in his chest. She was still out there, still alive. He typed a quick reply, asterisk, stay off the grid. They'll track you, asterisk. Then before sending, he hesitated. Maybe it was already too late. Outside, thunder rolled low across the horizon. He could see the reflection of blue police lights bouncing faintly off the wet street, though the sound was distant. His paranoia was justified. Since the leak, 3 of his internal accounts had been locked, his credentials revoked, and a federal inquiry had quietly opened under his name. The official narrative would be predictable: date to breach, unauthorized access, internal misconduct. They'd smear him as a disgruntled employee. But the truth didn't need his defense anymore. It was already in the hands of millions. Across the country, newsrooms buzzed with confusion. Mainstream media outlets had received directives not to mention the Tier 1 leak until it could be verified. Financial anchors stuck to rehearsed lines about unfounded rumors while avoiding any reference to the viral video, yet despite their silence, the world. Financial markets were reacting, gold prices surged overnight, cryptocurrency spiked unpredictably, several major U.S. banks quietly restricted outgoing transfers above certain thresholds. Something was happening behind the curtain, something big. Jenna, meanwhile, sat in the back of a small cafe hundreds of miles away, her hoodie pulled low over her head. The cafe's hum of soft jazz and chatter disguised the quiet panic that filled her every breath. On her laptop, she watched her video's analytics explode, hundreds of thousands of new views every hour. Someone had added translated captions in Russian, Spanish, and Arabic. It was global now. She scrolled through messages. Dozens of anonymous sources were reaching out, claiming insider status. Some provided new documents, others offered proof of Tier 2 operations. Jenna's journalist instincts told her most were fakes, but a few felt too precise to dismiss. Among them was a new file labeled Tier 2, pending activation. She hesitated before opening it, aware that every click could be monitored. Still, curiosity won. The file contained a list of corporate entities, major conglomerates, and private holdings, all flagged for Phase 2 redemption clearance. It confirmed what Ethan had said. The next phase was about to begin. The redistribution wasn't stopping. It was expanding. She leaned back, rubbing her temples. The words of Ethan's earlier message replayed in her head. They know. He had warned her this would spiral beyond either of their control. Now that it had, there was no going back. Meanwhile, inside a sleek office at the Treasury Department, several officials sat around a polished table, the air thick with tension. Monitors lined the walls, displaying real-time market movements and social media analytics. The leak had destabilized confidence in the banking system, and investors were reacting faster than algorithms could compensate. "We need to shut it down," one official snapped. "Block the domains, scrub the video. It's too late," another replied grimly. "The mirrors are everywhere, it's decentralized. Then we spin it, discredit the source, make it look like a digital hoax." Outside that sealed room, the public had no idea such conversations were happening. But Ethan did. His contacts inside the system had warned him that the government's response would be swift and ruthless. By tomorrow, his name would be everywhere, tagged as a hacker, a conspiracist, maybe even a traitor. He closed his laptop and looked out the window at the glowing highway. He knew he couldn't stay much longer. He had already changed motels twice, moving farther each time, but tonight, something in him felt different, calmer, almost resolute. He had done what he set out to do. The truth was free, and no one could erase it now. His phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't a message. It was a notification from an encrypted news channel. Jenna's video had just crossed 50 million views. A second video had appeared under a mirrored account, showing snippets of the Tier 1 document alongside live commentary from global economists. People were demanding answers. Markets were reacting faster than regulators could control. The illusion of stability was cracking. Ethan smiled faintly, though fatigue pulled at his eyes. For years, he had served the system, believing that order was better than chaos. Now he realized that order had always belonged to the powerful. Maybe it was time for a little chaos. As dawn crept over the horizon, light spilled across the empty motel parking lot. He packed his few belongings, a worn laptop, a flash drive, and a half-empty notebook filled with cryptic notes. He slipped on his jacket and stepped outside. The air smelled of rain and gasoline, the sky streaked with pink and silver. He turned one last time toward the city skyline, far in the distance. Somewhere in that maze of towers, people in suits were panicking, scrambling to contain what he had unleashed. And somewhere out there, Jenna was still moving, hiding, reporting, keeping the truth alive. He got into his car, the engine rumbling softly to life. Before driving off, he opened his phone one last time. A new message from Jenna flashed on the screen. Asterisk, they're trying to rewrite the story, but people know now, they can't undo this. Asterisk, Ethan typed back slowly, his thumbs trembling just slightly. Asterisk, then our work is done. Asterisk, he hit send, slipped the phone into the glove box, and pulled out onto the open road. The radio was silent, but he didn't need the noise. He knew what was coming: confusion, denial, cover-ups, and maybe even collapse. But he also knew something else. For the first time, the public had seen behind the curtain. The world would never trust its banks or leaders in the same way again. As the sun rose over the horizon, Ethan merged onto the empty highway, disappearing into the light. Behind him, the world buzzed with fear, excitement, and awakening. Tier 1 was complete. Tier 2 was coming. And nothing could stop it now.